Business as Unusual is a thought-provoking podcast that explores the innovative strategies, disruptive ideas, and unconventional practices driving successful leaders and companies in the ever-evolving world of modern business. Subscribe, comment, and share for weekly inspiration with our host, Aicila.
In week 2 of How to Set Intentions for Next Year, I'll walk you through some ways to review your data to help you prepare for a more effective and easier next year. Stay tuned for some business as unusual planning tips.
Business as Unusual is a thought-provoking podcast that explores the innovative strategies, disruptive ideas, and unconventional practices driving successful leaders and companies in the ever-evolving world of modern business. Subscribe, comment, and share for weekly inspiration with our host, Aicila.
Last week, I talked about the resources in addition to money and time that you put into your business and a little how to measure them. This week, let's talk about why and how that helps you. What if one of the keys to a successful new year lies in understanding the year that just passed? Gathering data isn't enough. You have to gather the data you need, and you have to know how to use the data you have to inform your future, your choices, your decision-making, your adjustments. The financial side is something that you'll get a lot of support in, as is the social media metrics and conversions, and those things are all important. The whole picture is what you need. I'm talking more about the resources that are frequently taken for granted. For example, maybe you have a spouse that supports you. And so you draw on the resource of that relationship to be able to work late or to go see other people, to make business deals. And that's a lovely thing. That's part of being in relationship. However, how are you replenishing that relationship? So when I talk about connection as one of the resources that you draw on, that's what I'm talking about. Maybe it's friendships. Some people also talk about a social capital, and that is part of this connection piece. So if you are engaging in business and you're not leaning on your social capital and you're not leaning on your connections, that's also problematic. However, if you are leaning on them, you need to make sure that you're replenishing them, that you are paying attention to the people in your life and showing up for them as well. And this can seem, when I think about it this way, maybe I'm talking about it in a transactional way, like you do this for me, I do this for you. And that isn't what I mean. That's also okay. There are people in your life that you will have transactional relationships with. And what I'm talking about more is just recognizing that these things that are more hidden and taken for granted, like leaning on someone and not really making a point to make sure that you're replenishing them or showing up for them in the things that matter to them. So another resource when I talk about is motivation. Some of your tasks and activities will take a ton of what I like to call catalyst energy, where you really have to push yourself to get them done. And some of your activities will replenish that. They'll just make you feel so motivated you can go knock down 14 different tasks. And once again, you have to make sure that you're balancing your activities such that when you really rely on your motivation energy to get things going, you're also engaging in things that motivate you. I know this sounds super obvious, and yet if you don't take the time to reflect on the things that motivate you and the things that drain you or require a lot of that catalyst energy, then it can be very easy to set up an imbalanced set of activities and projects. And so that's when I talk about gathering that data. You go through the list of questions I gave you before. The resource calculator is on my website for free. You can use that. There's some guiding questions in there as well. And really do that for the things that you're thinking about. You can focus on your whole business. You can focus on one specific set of projects that you feel you want to get dialed in a little bit better. Once you've kind of gotten that done, however, you're going to kind of then look and see in your input column, your resources you rely on, is there anything that's really consistently being drawn from? So I have an example on a sheet that I'll put up for people to download. Project 1 and Project 2 in this example sheet really show that the business owner is drawing a lot on their time. They spend a lot of time on their projects and they're not really doing anything to get that back. And because of that, they're going to feel stretched and like they run a little ragged, maybe a little stressed out. And eventually that will lead to burnout because they're spending more time than they necessarily have, and they're not really replenishing it in any way. Going through all of this, for you, that's what I'm asking you to do, is you take all this data that you've gathered around how you are spending the resources of you and your energy and your time and the relationships that you're leaning on, and then take that and evaluate it and look for patterns. And those patterns are going to inform what you need to adjust or change or maybe even get rid of. If you have a project that really takes a lot of resources from you and only delivers on one, it probably needs to either be removed from your repertoire or drastically changed. For an example, in Business Owner 1, Project 1 and 2, with the time situation, perhaps they can find a way to offload some of the tasks that take their time. Maybe some of them are outsourceable or repeatable. They can put in an automated system. And then Project 3 draws on a lot of resources and returns money, which is great, but really nothing else. And that's going to lead to creative burnout for this person. So they need to find a way to replenish those resources and either remove that project or tweak it such that they are refilling their cup, if you will. That'll take you a little time, or maybe it'll just be immediate. So I don't want to speak for you. Usually it does take a little time to kind of get a sense of where your patterns are or what needs to be removed, changed, or added. And then the next step is to analyze your systems and your processes. Look at your workflows, your tools, how you spend your time, even how you do your routine. Sometimes I have one person that I work with that found that if they got up and they did their email first thing and then didn't do it again until the middle of the day, they really didn't end up spending as much time on email, and it was a much more effective use of their time overall. That's where the workflow, like putting the right things at the right time, can be really helpful. So sketch out a plan, try it out, see how it goes. Some people like to ask ChatGPT for help. Some people like to work with a consultant or download a book. There's lots of books out there that have really great suggestions. But that's one. Analyze your workflow. And then the other part is analyze your tools. And for that, make a list of your tools and what they do for you. And really look to see, are they working well with each other? And do they work well with you? Are you really committed to the idea of a tool that you never use? I test tools all the time. Personally, because I'm just infinitely curious, and partially because I have a lot of clients that are looking for unique solutions. And so I'm always trying to find tools that will fold into how they work best. And I think that's the other part. Really center how you are successful. There are so many tools out there. I've analyzed so many for my different clients and for myself. Find a setup that allows you to stay as grounded in what works best for you as possible. And that's a really, really good way to build your system. So instead of thinking, oh, I should do it this way, business as usual, think of what is working for me? What do I consistently find that I do well? And then build out from there. And don't try to change your habits or your instincts or the things about you that have been the way they are forever. Work with them. Don't spend your energy trying to change yourself. Instead, create systems to support you as you are. Like, for example, in my personal life, my sense of direction is unique, to say the least. And I used to, when I first started driving, I carried a map in my car all the time. And I always gave myself a lot of extra time to get places. And then when MapQuest came out, if I made plans, I would always print out directions the night before, so I knew exactly where I was going. I got a cell phone because then I could call people when I got lost. And now that GPS has arrived, it has really created a lot of freedom for me. However, I didn't ever actually get mad at myself for getting lost. I've had other people get mad at me. I never let the fact that I couldn't figure out where things were keep me from going places. I just did a little bit to work with it. I didn't assume I'd find it or magically somehow know where things were. I made plans to make it so that I could get places regardless. And that's what I'm suggesting you do. So don't look at yourself and be like, oh, tomorrow I'm suddenly going to know where everything is. It's all right, this is true about me. I like to sleep in. Okay, then for the most part, don't do meetings before 10. That's okay when you work for yourself. Set yourself up for success. And when you have to, you have to. For the most part, you should be able to manage that. So analyze your workflows and your systems and your tools and start with, how do I do this in a way that stays as close to my natural way of being and my rhythm as possible? I guarantee you will be very delighted by the result. And don't be afraid to remove things. That's the other thing, is as you're going through and analyzing, maybe sometimes you're going to look and you're going to be like, oh, I really love this, or I'm afraid to lose it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't necessarily build some kind of bridging between something that's been successful but is draining or will lead to burnout and something else that won't, but is a new product and will take people maybe some time to get used to. Obviously be practical. However, also don't be afraid to say, this thing has served its time, it's done. While this is an end-of-year planning series, you can do this type of reflection on a regular basis. You can do it weekly, you can do it daily around smaller tasks. Sometimes that's really helpful to take a week and just sort of analyze everything. It's best if you take notes and put it in a journal or something. Our impressions of how things go and the reality are often not totally aligned. And just start tracking these reflections, and that will make it easier for you to analyze and identify patterns. I do recommend doing this about once a year. Taking this focused time will help you gain valuable insights that you might otherwise miss. And if you use a journal or a spreadsheet to track these reflections, or the resource calculator that I shared with you, it will make it easier to analyze and identify patterns. Failing to reflect on the past can lead to repeating mistakes or continuing strategies that are no longer effective for you and your business. Reflect to redirect. A meaningful end-of-year review considers not just financial results, but also energy invested and the effectiveness of your systems and processes. Commit to a thorough year-end review to set yourself up for a fulfilling and successful new year. In the next episode, we'll explore how to set impactful goals that align with your values and vision for the future. Stay unusual. I hope you enjoy the show. I love making it. If you did enjoy it, consider hopping over to the review portion of the platform you listen on and letting other people know about it. Or share the episode or the entire show with a friend, or subscribe to the show. Definitely reach out, get on my newsletter, follow me on social media, and let me know what you like, what you don't like, and what you'd like to see in the future. While we love our guests, appearance on the Business as Unusual podcast or any Bicurean consulting production is for information purposes only and is not to be considered an endorsement of their business practices, or character. Please properly vet anyone you find through this podcast and generally before you do any business with them. Thank you for listening.